Okay. Well, Ed, thank you for joining us. Ed
Aaron.
Diehl, correct?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining the podcast. This is the Salem Business Journal podcast. It's focused on news, people, and stories. And now we're at a political convention, so we get to have you on. So thank you for jumping on.
Dorchester. This is only my third time.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever done podcasts before. It's
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, I mean, and that's sort of what helped win the last election.
Yeah.
So I think people are starting to see how influential it can be.
They absolutely are.
Yeah. Well, and you can take a long form video and you can get a bunch of good nuggets from it when you got something impactful and important to say. So, well, good. Well, let's make your time valuable here. So you own a business, or you've owned a business for a long time. Was it even before you got into politics? Right?
Yeah. So I'm an engineer
by
degree. So I have a master's in mechanical engineering.
Great.
So, and in 99, I started a business based in Albany we did factory automation and control systems. So we would go into factories all over the place and put the computer systems on the machines and the operator interfaces and write the programs.
Great.
And then eventually we started doing robotics. And I love the manufacturing business. I love building a small business. It was three of us that we met in a coffee shop in the morning. And then we met in a brew pub in the afternoon.
Cool.
Planning and how we're going to build a business that we would want to work for as engineers. And we were able to build that up to about 100 employees.
Wow.
By the time I sold my interest in that. And it was a great, I loved it. I loved it. Wow. But during that whole time, I gained a perspective of what it's like on the receiving end of government regulation. And I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
So now that I'm in the legislature, and this wasn't my planned career, but I'm vice chair of econ development, small business, and trade. And so we see a lot of business related bills in that committee. And there's a lot of business bills that flow through the building in other committees. But I look at them all as a business owner. Mm-hmm. How would this impact me? How would this impact my employees? And I try and bring that perspective whenever I can. Well, frankly, we need more of it.
Well, I think that's powerful because you have life perspective and you have life experience.
Yeah. We need more engineers in the building too. By the way.
Well, yeah, engineers will make they think that they're you guys. So I've done loans for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So I've done loans for engineers, and you guys ask the best questions. I've never heard someone ask, like so intricate about how does this affect my amortization schedule, or how much does this 1/8 of percent, and just be so detailed because you're thinking years now down the road. When does your mortgage insurance fall off? So I enjoy it because it makes me better. And I think that's something that you can relate to is you just want to make things better. You want to make systems better. You want to have impact. How crucial is it when trade things happen that affect? I mean, what is give me a story of something where trade can derail or totally total a business or hurt a business in a
related to trade,
trade or anywhere in like.
Well, I can tell you what we see a lot of is basically attempts to get into how private businesses are organized or how their labor force is organized.
Yeah,
and that to me is a real problem.
Yeah.
So one example going on now is we have a bill that would require manufacturers to pay prevailing wage for the workers in their shop if they're doing a public works project. And the authors of this bill have really no idea how private small business manufacturing works. They have no idea.
Yeah.
So I sat down with the unions, and I'm not an anti-union person, but sure. I sat down with the unions to understand, why are you doing this? This would have affected my old company because we built electrical panels. That was part of our business.
Yeah.
And it's work that's done in a panel shop by skilled technicians, but they're not part of the union. And they work there because they want to work there. And if they wanted to work for a union, they go work for a union.
Yeah.
but for me to take one project and pay one set of wages and benefits for that project, and then the next project have a totally separate set of wages and benefits, and the guy's working multiple projects on the same day, it doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. So I am working very hard to kill this bill. And fortunately, there are some business people in there that understand that, and
good.
I'm crossing my fingers that we'll be successful.
Tell me what it's like to partner with people to stop a bill, stop a bill from happening.
Well,
what goes on?
That's politics.
So okay, so that
so I can tell you what I do.
Yeah,
and
because I bet that you almost have a business strategy behind that as well.
You
almost.
do, yeah. But I try and focus on the policy.
Yeah,
I try not to make anything personal.
Yeah,
because and this happens in the building. I'll go head to head against one guy on a bill.
Yeah,
and fight like hell I'll be opposing and he's for it. And on the next bill, we're co-chiefing it together.
Interesting.
Yes, it happens.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can't do that if you make it personal. So I try and focus on the policy. So, I'm an engineer, so I try and explain why my idea is right. But that's what I lead with is that policy position. And I try whenever I can is, appeal to the heart and the mind. So that means, logically, here's why this bill is a good one or a bad one. And then bring in my own personal story or stories of others that will be impacted by this legislation and let them tell their story.
So effective communication.
Effective communication. And then I do a lot of outreach with the public, with my constituents.
Yeah.
In part to let them know what's going on in that building.
Right.
But also I want them to be engaged in the process. They need to know that these bills are coming down the pike so they can engage. They can submit testimony in writing. They can make phone calls to the legislators or email. They can participate in a public hearing and testify in opposition or against it.
It creates a ripple effect.
It absolutely does. So there's another bill that is trying to basically grant collective bargaining rights to home healthcare workers. And the interesting thing is with this, they don't want it. And the committee room was filled with workers that don't want this bill. And it makes you wonder why is the legislature trying to impart this legislation on the very workers it claims it's helping, but they don't want it. So that bill would just cruise on through if it weren't for hundreds and hundreds of people showing up.
Wow.
And wearing the same color shirts, testifying, being there in the room, submitting testimony. Yeah.
Do you disagree with people on your side of the fence frequently?
No, never. We get along all
What happens
the time.
when you do? What happens when you do, when there's a bill or there's something that you're trying to make happen and someone disagrees with you that's on your own team?
So what we try and do really hard is find where we have the common ground. And I'm a conservative. We have a lot of common ground as a caucus, as a team.
Wonderful.
But there are areas where we don't see eye to eye. And what we try and do is get those figured out early so we know. Yeah. And the main thing is you don't want to surprise anybody. You don't want to surprise your teammate.
I feel like this is a dating sequence.
You don't want to surprise your leader.
How to be a good boyfriend or how to have a good relationship. Don't surprise them.
Politics is all
Let's
about.
Put everything on the table.
It is about relationships.
Yeah.
And it is about working with other people. Pretty much the things you learn in kindergarten. They apply pretty well, right?
Some people don't play nice anymore, man.
No.
The playground is tough out here.
The way I approach it is, again, I'm looking at the policy. Is this a good policy for the state? Sometimes I don't agree with my colleagues.
Yeah.
But I don't surprise them.
Yeah.
I let the leader know. I let the team know where I stand. And so that's how I approach it.
Yeah. What have you been encouraged by in the last, since you're conservative? Obviously, I would imagine that you're happy with the change in hands, or
at the national level.
At the national level,
yes, I am.
What have you been encouraged? What are some things that you've seen change just in your day to day, just based off of that alone?
Well, unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot
Here
change
locally.
day to day.
Yeah.
There's a few things that are going on.
Yeah.
And in one, probably the most significant thing right now is unbelievably, we have some laws in our state that allow agencies to discriminate based on race or ethnicity. People would be shocked that that exists, but it exists.
Wow.
And they were written. I think the people who put those together had good intentions. They're trying to help certain minorities have a step up. But the fact is, you cannot discriminate based on race or ethnicity. It's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
You have to have everybody give a level playing field. But we've been handing out grants, and we have certain programs, employment programs, that exclude certain people. They exclude my grandsons. And that's just not acceptable to me.
Yeah.
So what I've seen lately is that the Trump administration is coming down and saying no more.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that. And so we have been writing letters to the Trump administration on that front. I've been getting legal opinions. Here's the crazy thing. The state, I have access to a team of lawyers that works for the state,
yeah,
for the Capitol, legislative council. And I brought bills to them, said, this looks like it's unconstitutional. And they have analyzed the bill and come back and said, yes, it is unconstitutional. In some cases, it was bills that we passed 2 years ago. In other cases, it's bills that are headed to the floor in this session. And so one good thing that's happening is last week, 2 of those bad bills were on the floor to be voted on. And because of the stink we made, they pulled those bills off the floor and they took them back to committee to be rewritten. And so now our pressure's, okay, don't just change the writing on paper. You have to change the intent. So in the committee, when you're testifying, you have to make it very clear that you have changed the intent of these bills.
Yeah.
So I think that is a change that we're seeing. It's a little one, but there's still a lot more work to do on that.
Yeah. What can Oregon do better? What can Oregon do better?
How much time do we have?
Well, that was a very broad question. Where do you live in Salem?
I live in just out of Staten.
Out of Staten.
Ohio.
Okay.
So my district covers East Salem up through the Santiam Canyon.
What could Salem and Greater Salem do better, in your opinion? What are some hot topics that you would like to see improve?
Well,
with new leadership,
I'd say what I've seen that where we are getting better is with the drug issue and the street homelessness issue, which are interrelated. You're seeing that improve. I am seeing that improve, and I'm talking to law enforcement. I was just at a Hayesville Jan Rhee community meeting, and I was there with law enforcement, and I asked them what they're seeing, and the fact that the legislature passed a bill, House Bill 4002 last year, that basically gave law enforcement in the counties a little more control. Good. And Marion County, thanks to our commissioners, has really, they're doing it right. If you're doing drugs, you will seek treatment. Yes. And if you're selling drugs, you're going to prison. Good. And that's the attitude. And when I talk to law enforcement, when I talk to the county sheriffs, they're saying that's what they're doing. And they feel like they're making an impact. But we still have a long way to go. Well, for a long time, it felt like there was bills that were being passed for just excluding any type of consequence for drugs, for selling drugs, and when you live in that type of aimless state, and everyone just assumes that they're gonna have a slap on the wrist, but never actually experience consequence or be thrown in jail or prison, how does that suppress any chaos? I mean, it instigates it. Actually, it's a philosophical difference between conservative values, sure, and progressive values. Yeah, I believe I want to help people. Yeah, but you should also be accountable for your own actions, right? Well, yeah. So when we provide housing with no requirement to be clean and no expectations, I don't think that's right. if we're going out and handing clean needles and foil to drug addicts without actually getting them the help they need, that's not right.
Yeah.
So I believe in, they call it compassionate accountability. I expect the state to help people that need help. That's part of our job.
Yeah.
But on your end, you have to be accountable for your actions.
100%.
And so what we tried to do with 4002, it didn't go as far as I want, but to include some level of accountability in there. So yes, you're doing drugs, you can go get treatment, or you can go to jail. It's your choice. What would you like to do? But the one thing you're not going to do is sit in my kid's park and do drugs. That's not available to you anymore.
That's good.
So
that is good. If I'm a business owner in the Salem and Greater Salem area, if I don't have time to go to the Salem Chamber or Kaiser Chamber or Staten Chamber, or go to speak at a conference or something politically, at an open mic or something, what can I do to get involved and to kind of help? What would you say? Help what? Just do to get involved.
Besides read the Salem Business Journal.
Yeah, that's good. Hey,
right,
appreciate that. That was good. Yeah, there's humor in this.
I think,
How do they stay informed?
Yeah.
And how do they engage?
Oh, this is good. Actually, this is actually good for me. Okay. Grew up Salem Kaiser my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I know a very limited amount. I've been in business for 10 years, but I know a limited amount about local politics, about state politics. Where are my best places to get good information? Because good information is hard to find, but where are the best places that I can go that you would find true and good information? Is that available to me?
If on the political front, if you're trying to see what kind of legislation's coming down, I would really engage with your party organizations.
Sure.
Okay. Because there are groups within those organizations that are keeping track of all this legislation.
Yeah.
And analyzing it and giving an assessment, good, bad, whatever. I mean, the Salem Chamber is doing a great job with that.
I agree.
So even if you can't participate with the chamber activities, I mean, if you can join the chamber and follow them on social media,
what they're endorsing.
Yeah, what they're endorsing. They're keeping really abreast of that from a business perspective.
Great.
So I think that's really good.
Wonderful.
And I can tell you from my, I was not involved in local politics at all. Like you said, I'm running my business.
Yeah.
I'm making sure my family has a safe home. And I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. And I think that's a mistake.
Sure.
It's a mistake.
Because if we could change or help in some intricate, in some simple areas, we might have helped.
Because I think about some of the stuff that came down and impacted our ability to do business. And I thought, well, what if I was being more involved and more engaged? Maybe I could have changed that.
It's a great heart posture to have, and that'll make you more effective now. And to tell younger leaders, this is where I missed, and this is where you might want to,
you got it.
Make yourself available to.
Right.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we're going to thank our sponsors, but thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you on again in Salem.
Awesome.
See our spot out there.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you to SMI Real Estate and Saltwater Wellness for sponsoring this podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.